Hi, I'm Will from Tested.
Norm from Tested.
Norm, today we have the new Nokia Lumia 800.
Finally.
Yeah, it's
My
not.
God.
It's not here.
No, not in the U.S.
Not at all. It's not a U.S. phone.
No, this was announced at Nokia World in October, and it's been out in Europe. It's their first Nokia's. Well, they have two, but it's their high-end Windows Phone 7.
Yeah, of course. So Nokia and Microsoft have a special partnership when it comes to Windows Phone 7. Which
They're BFFs.
Yeah, they are phone BFFs. This is the first phone out of that partnership. It's running Mango, which is the latest version of Windows Phone 7.
7.5. Yep.
7.5. And it is really, really a nice phone.
Yeah.
Surprisingly good.
So we've had hands-on some quick looks of old Windows Phone 7 phones. The ones available on AT&T.
Oh, it's like a Focus.
Like the Samsung Focus, and now there's the new Focus. But this is a better constructed, I would say.
Decidedly more attractive phone. Yeah. So when you compare it to the original Focus and even the second wave of Windows Phone 7 phones feel real plasticky. They're kind of chunky and big. This is very, very small. It's a 3.7-inch screen.
Oh my God, it's falling apart.
It weighs, oh wow, plastic everywhere. It weighs about 2 grams more than the iPhone 4S. So imperceptibly heavier. It uses a polycarbonate shell. And
That's
it has
just plastic. It's solid plastic body.
Special plastic.
Okay.
Special plastic.
Finished plastic.
And then the really neat thing is that the screen has a little gentle curve.
Yeah, so it's not actually flat on the top or the bottom.
It feels flat. I mean, when you're holding it, when you have it in your hand, it feels flat.
It's curved on the edges, and it's tapered off a little bit on the bottom.
Yeah.
But overall, it's very nice design. It's based on the N9 design, but it's actually more different than you'd think. It's not just the same body.
So the screen's only 3.7 inches, which is a little bit smaller
than the N9. Yeah, still bigger than your iPhone.
Yeah, the buttons, it has the Windows Phone 7 button placement.
Yeah.
So
it's an AMOLED screen, and it's 800 by 480, which is standard resolution. The screen looks good.
For Windows Phone 7, standard Windows Phone.
So how's the camera? How are the pictures on this?
Well, it's an 8-megapixel camera. It has the flash, which is really nice.
Dual LED flash, which is also different from the N9.
Most of the problems I had taking pictures with this were because of my expectations about how a camera phone should work.
With your experience with Android and iOS.
Yeah, so one thing I do really love is there's a dedicated camera button up here on the top. You can use that to take pictures of the back of my hand.
Even when it's locked, you can unlock it with holding down.
It's a setting, yeah, but you can hold down the camera button for like 3 seconds and it pops up.
That's a big thing. Microsoft wants you to be able to take pictures as quickly as possible.
I think the double tap and tap the camera button on iOS is actually a little bit faster, just because it's about a 3-second hold. Right. But one of the things that really weirded me about Windows Phone 7 that I'd forgotten is that it's not just tap to focus, but it's tap to focus and shoot.
Automatically.
Right there.
That's also a setting. It's on by default. I'd recommend turning that off.
It's a weird setting to have on by default. Yeah. The other thing I found is it's really easy to get blurry pictures if you're just kind of holding with one hand and you take your picture and it moves the camera as you do it. Right. You want to treat this like a real camera where you hold it with both hands and if you're going to use the physical button.
Now the actual photos themselves were pretty comparable to the iPhone 4S.
Pretty good. A little bit cooler in a lot of cases. It doesn't have the HDR stuff that we've come to expect.
You mean temperature-wise?
Temperature cooler.
Not
that is
flash-wise.
Exactly correct. The pictures are, you don't have the HDR feature.
Yeah.
It's in iOS these days. The lens is very good. It does nice macro shots. I did have quite a few pictures that I took that were out of focus because I didn't understand the tap to focus early on.
And
so
in
definitely
Windows,
pay attention to that.
In Windows Phone 7, there are actually a lot of camera settings. You can change ISO, exposure value, macro. It's not automatic.
And they're actually comparable to Camera Plus apps in the App Store. They were like 99 cents. I checked out a couple of those. One last thing to mention is because this is a European phone, I did have some problems with the flicker reduction. So 50 hertz flicker reduction versus 60 hertz flicker reduction. And I think that that's probably what caused some weird kind of corruption when I would fire up the phone app at first. Once I flipped that setting, that stuff all went away. But something to keep in mind.
Are there any junk apps on this phone because it's a Nokia phone?
Well, so they have a couple of apps that they do ship on all phones. I think they left out Nokia Music on this phone. It wasn't on the review phone. But Nokia Drive is here. Nokia Drive is turn-by-turn nav for Windows Phone 7.
That's what we want, right?
Really, really useful. This is a terrible, terrible implementation of turn-by-turn nav. Basically, anytime you get pulled out of the app, it loses what you were doing, and when you come back, you have to type in your destination again or pick it from the list. It's really dangerous. There's no voice control. It's not, I think Bing Maps doesn't provide turn-by-turn nav either. I don't think that either of these is what you should be using.
Android's turn-by-turn navigation is still the best.
It's still the best in class, yeah, without a doubt. So the other Mango stuff is still here. There's no other junk apps. You did ask about that. I didn't find anything else. It has the normal stuff. I think you can remove everything, including Nokia Drive. Let's try that right now. Yes, you can.
That's nice. That's the Windows Phone feature, Phone 7 feature.
It is.
All
good.
my AT&T apps are gone from the phone.
Yeah, it's the first thing you do.
Yeah. It is a GSM phone. Did it work good for phone calls?
It was fine for phone calls. It seemed to be a little bit droppier than the 4S. Definitely better than a 4. Reception was good. Battery life is okay.
Right. About a day of use.
Basically, yeah, if you forget to charge it at night, then I would wake up in the morning, it would wake me up, the alarm would go off, and then it would start complaining that it was almost out of battery and I needed to plug it in immediately. So that stuff is good. A couple of other small things. If you're used to the headphone remote on an iOS style device, including the microphone, Nokia uses a different standard, similar to some of the early Samsung Android phones. So you'll actually need a Nokia compatible headset in order to use the microphone and the buttons with this. Something to keep in mind. Other stuff, the AMOLED screen is gorgeous. It's a really, really nice looking screen.
And in daylight?
It works well in daylight. I had no problems. I mean, the brightness automatically adjusted up, automatically came down. I didn't have to tweak that stuff at all, which is exactly how I like it to be.
It's a really, really nice looking phone.
People actually asked me what it was. I had a couple of German tourists while I was out this weekend.
But they can't get it. They're too creative.
No. Yeah, it's too creative for them. Then, of course, the other thing that I don't really like about this phone is the camera sensor position. It's right in the back where it would be in a normal phone, a normal camera rather. But because it's not where you expect it to be, you kind of it's not in what your hands think of as a dead zone. It's easy to get your finger in the way, especially if you're doing some sort of novel grab.
Are they going to sell this in the U.S.?
There's a rumor this morning that Verizon has an LTE version coming.
Knows. All right.
Yeah,
probably see more at CES from Nokia, but for their first Windows Phone 7 phone, it's really, really nice.
It is without a doubt my favorite Windows Phone 7 phone right now.
Would you recommend people buy this or wait?
I would not recommend anybody import this because it is crazy expensive. Right. I think it's a retail off contract for like 500 euros right now, which is like $750, $800. Do not spend that on this. There will be a better Windows Phone 7 that's not essentially, I mean, it's important to note, this is essentially an upscaled N9.
Right.
There's going to be a new Windows Phone 7 phone that is not just an upscaled N9 early next year.
Right. And the 710, the lower end version of this,
is
out in the US, but don't get that either. Wait for the next batch of Nokia Windows Phone 7 phones.
Agreed.
Good promise.
Really exciting stuff. Till next time, I'm Will.
I'm Norm.
See you guys later. Bye.